From Eddie Reagan losing her status as everyone's favorite badass character, to Jackie Curatola's temper tantrums, here are Blue Blood's most hated characters revealed, starting with Eddie Reagan. Now, what really sucks about this one is that she used to be a favorite character.
Since when don't you want to drive?
Since I went out with a couple college buddies last night and one beer became a dozen beers, 3 shots in a strip club.
Well, like I said, I have a husband, but 10 months, I thought that was just a couple of times.
It doesn't matter. Put your hands behind your back.
But by season 13, she became one of the most annoying and ridiculous ones. Some people think she used to be a total badass, but now she just constantly whines about everything to her husband Jamie. It definitely looks like the writers aren't doing her character justice, especially since they keep letting this awful way of showing a character go on without stopping it. The second episode of season 13 had a lot of things that upset the way the Reagan family works.
Maybe it's like you said, we're two beautiful women, and maybe he has a type.
There are a lot of us. Just keep your eyes open.
But when Eddie got angry about being cut out of Jamie's work life, fans were annoyed. As if that wasn't bad enough already, they hadn't even made Eddie a detective yet. She's been investigating things and not letting them go. So why not just give her the promotion she definitely deserves? Plus, if Baez leaves the show for some reason, I think it'd make sense for Eddie to dance with Danny as her first partner. Of course, it's not just Eddie who's on everyone's hit list. There are plenty of other characters who are disliked simply because they take away too much attention from the main family. Just take Detective Abigail Baker, for instance.
Sir, your father is here.
Abigail, you've got some nerve, Francis.
He said not urgent, but important.
I have no idea what that means.
Even if you look at the Reagans, Blue Bloods has a pretty big cast. Sometimes they don't even have enough to do in an episode. So adding Abigail in a big way could make everyone feel like they don't have enough to do. Some people think it's fine for Abigail to play a supporting part. This is something that people who don't really want to see more of Abigail often say. They claim that the problem with her character is that it's given too much weight in the show and is at risk of taking away attention from the Reagans. They liked her as Frank's administrative help because she was the only person he could really trust and who could tell him the truth. But that's about it. While Abby did have a certain fan base, Jack Boyle's contribution to the show was just plain confusing.
I get that you want to curate your public persona for the DA run.
I mean, you and I are in limbo, Jack. We date, we fool around, but we're not committed to each other. And
I asked you.
Few people, especially the Reagans, look at Erin's ex-husband Jack Boyle as much as they do. Even though Jack's only been in a few episodes of the CBS show, he's always a source of conflict for the family and fans of the show. The longer his character's been on the show, the more confused people have become about him. Fans don't know if they're supposed to love or hate the show's most famous ex-husband, mostly because of his occasional lapses in manners and the Reagans' tendency to make him out to be a bad guy. They also don't know how they should feel about his love for his daughter and his romance with Erin. But then again, neither do the fans. Speaking of, Nikki Reagan Boyle is another character with a pretty underwhelming character arc. She's Erin's daughter, and the series has followed her from when she was a young, cocky girl through college and beyond. One user said that one of the worst things about Nikki is that her stories about growing up and going to college never seem to have anything to do with the rest of the show. They also said that it seems like she's a know-it-all, even though she's just a college student. Many others agreed with this comment. It also shows a big problem that some people have with Nikki's attitude toward the Reagan family. She's the only one in the Reagan family who doesn't fit in. She's the only rebellious member of the family, and everyone puts up with the way she acts. One Reddit user complained that it was difficult to sit through season 6, where she had a major role in most episodes. Even though a small number of users say that Nikki's liberal views sometimes help in balancing out the conservative views of some of the other characters, most agree that she's their least favorite Reagan family member. Sadly, this is just one of a few threads about how much people hate Nikki. In another thread, the person who started it makes it clear that they don't like Nikki, and most of the comments agree that she's annoyingly ignorant. Nikki's also always at odds with the Reagan strict family values, which is a trait that some fans don't like about her. Some people have found a lot to dislike about Nikki, whether it's her pointless plots, her haughty attitude, or her problems with her family. But she's not the only Reagan who's pretty hard to stand on screen. Her mom, Erin Reagan, comes pretty close too.
I'm Erin Reagan.
I appreciate you seeing me.
Please. I'm so sorry about your daughter. Well, I hope it's brought you some level of peace.
It has. And now I want James Baxter to pay for what he did.
As a single mom and a prosecutor, she's got a lot going for her. Even though she works for the same side as the rest of the family, her strict obedience to the law and some of her tasks cause trouble in the family. I'm talking about her because she's the character most people dislike. She's the oldest of the Reagan children, but she seems cold and not willing to forgive. Something about her strict attitude has always made me feel uncomfortable, and it looks like I'm not the only one who feels this way. We can only hope that her behavior changes a lot in the next season. But for now, she's on the list of characters people don't like very much. The next person on the list is another one of Frank's kids, and I'm not a big fan of him either, Danny Reagan.
I'll need to speak to you all later, okay? We're gonna need the name of the guest who is staying in this room. You make our life difficult, we're only gonna make yours even more difficult.
Well, that manager was probably just doing his job.
He's a good guy and does a great job, but he's way too old-fashioned and has a very bad temper. He usually acts like a child, throwing a fit whenever things don't go his way. And why don't things go his way? Well, that's because he always tries to break the law and gets angry when he can't. Because he's tough and has a short fuse, he often makes things worse. So he goes above and beyond the rules to close cases by using his power. He tends to be rough with the people he catches, which makes it hard to bring those criminals to court. Because he's so rough with these criminals, he's sometimes suspended. In one scene, he held a suspect over the edge of a building and threatened to let them fall if they didn't come clean. I hope that as the series goes on, he starts to be less mean, but I don't have high hopes for him. Well, him and this next guy, who's just the epitome of exaggeration, Frank Reagan.
Loyal to who?
To his fellow cops. In transit, where he started?
You might want to ask yourself, if he was so great at the job, why did he suddenly resign?
Now I get it. Working in law enforcement's often a high-stakes job, so it makes sense that the characters on Blue Bloods show strong feelings about their jobs, but some of them tend to be too dramatic. This behavior makes it hard for people to take the Reagan family seriously and takes away from the pleasure of the show as a whole. One Reddit user also said that the speech in many Frank Reagan scenes is too over the top. Many fans would say that Frank doesn't need his lines to be emphasized too much for him to be a strong, memorable character. But then again, I guess he does make the show engaging enough, no? Now, although this next character might not be a part of the show anymore, the confusion she left behind will always be remembered. Jackie Curatola. Curatola spends a lot more time getting mad at the other NYPD officers than she does being funny. She's still likable, of course, but Esposito's talent for delivering funny lines at the right time, which people saw in later seasons, like Aquafina is Nora from Queens, could have been used to make the procedural drama more fun. Having said that, that's all for Blue Bloods' Most Hated Characters Revealed.